Well, there's a thunderstorm rolling up this morning, so we thought we'd sit out here in the gazebo and drink a little coffee and let the thunderstorm do its thing. What do you think?
I think I'm not prepared.
You're not prepared?
No.
Hear that thunder?
I hear the thunder.
Isn't that cool?
It is cool. That's why I'm out here.
We'll let you know later in the video if we get blown away. Hey everybody,
Good
Bill
morning.
and Deb.
Sorry.
Is it? You know what? It's not still morning though.
No, it's actually not.
No, it's not. It's not still morning. My stomach's talking to me. That's how I know.
Whatever.
Even though I had a late breakfast, it's still. Anyway.
Whatever. Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning. We'll still say good morning. Well, we weathered the storm just fine. Weathered the storm just fine. It really rained heavy there for a little bit, didn't it?
Rain and
Wow.
thunder and
rain
lightning
and
and
thunder
wind.
and lightning. Oh my! Did the whole thing. And hope you can see the view that we have behind us there. That's a beautiful view we have. And we're at a beautiful campground, and we will talk more about the campground in another video.
Yes.
Right?
We can tell them what
Yeah.
lake we're on.
Yeah, we're on Lake Oologah in Oklahoma.
In Oklahoma.
Lake Oologah in Oklahoma. And I'll tell you what, it's a beautiful lake. It's nothing like what we expected. And by the way, we're still sitting in the gazebo right now, and the main reason why we're in the gazebo is because the wind is blowing a little bit, and I was afraid it might affect the audio. So we're in the gazebo, so this is the view we have when we're sitting on the back wall looking out. So we've been sitting
That's
here.
our view.
Yeah, that's our view back there. And we have been sitting here for a little while this morning, enjoying the view.
Since about 9 o'clock.
Yeah, off and on, since 9 o'clock, yeah. But anyway, Lake Oologah is an absolutely beautiful lake. It had been years and years since I'd ever been near Lake Oologah, and I was raised in northeast Oklahoma, and I remember crossing Lake Oologah a couple of times, headed somewhere else, but I didn't remember it like this at all. And when you first, the way we got to this campground, we actually come across the dam. And when you look from the dam back towards the lake, it is absolutely spectacular, the view you have there.
Very, very beautiful.
Wouldn't you say so?
I would say so.
Yeah, I would say so. So anyway, what we did, we come in and we got into the campground. We got all set up and everything. And after we got all set up, the next day, we hopped in the van and we rode back down to the dam to look everything over. Now this dam is a little bit different kind of dam. It's an earthen dam, and their spillway is unique because it comes like in two huge viaducts, you know, down below. And they do have the gates open right now. And how many cubic feet am I catching you off guard there,
No.
dear? Okay.
The other day, Tuesday, they started the release, and they're releasing 15,000 cubic feet per second.
Yeah, 15,000
Y'all do
cubic
the
feet per
math.
second.
Because it was still going yesterday. We haven't been over
Right.
today.
We crossed it yesterday, and it was still going strong. Now I do remember when I looked up information on Oologah Lake the other day before we actually come over here, because we'd never been to this campground before, and we didn't know if we were going to show up here and our site be flooded. We had no idea.
That's always a concern. Well, that's a concern this year because we've had so much rain.
And they did say that at that time that it was 8 feet above what they consider to be full pool, 8 feet above. But anyway, the way the campground is nestled here, none of the campsites were affected at all because they sit higher up off of the water. And they have a beautiful swimming beach. But we'll, like I say, we'll do a in-depth review on the campground in a few days. But we're going to say this. I'll say this right now. It's gorgeous.
Absolutely
gorgeous. We highly recommend you visit this particular campground, and we'll get into that more as we go on. But there's a lot of history in this area, and For one thing, those of you that are in our age bracket, as you were growing up, you probably learned a little bit, especially if you went to school in Oklahoma like I did. We learned everything possible about Will Rogers, who is an Oklahoma native son, and he was really quite a guy, And Oologah, the city of Oologah, well, town, settlement.
It's a town.
He was born just outside of Lake Oologah. So one thing that we did one day, the first day, we went over to his birthplace, which he was born on the Dog Iron Ranch. Is that correct?
The Dog Iron Ranch,
right,
which was part of the Cherokee Nation in Indian Territory.
Right.
Because he was born when Oklahoma was still a territory.
Right, right. And you're probably looking at some photos, or you see some photos, and I think there's at least one photo I'm going to show you here where it's like you're looking out the front porch of the house and you can see Lake Oologah. Well, at that time, of course, Oologah Lake wasn't here.
No, it was it was the Verdigris River.
Right, the Verdigris River. And I always thought that Oologah Lake was on the Grand River, but it's not. It's on the Verdigris River. But anyway, that was very interesting to see his birthplace, and the home and the property, of course, is remained in the family for years and years, and it may still be in the family. I don't know exactly who has possession of it now, but anyway, it was so interesting to go there, and I was a little hesitant about going. I didn't know if I really wanted to go see his birthplace or not.
Aren't you glad I made
And I was so happy that I did, because there was so much history there, and it was really cool. And then, of course, the next day, what did we do?
We went over to the Will Rogers Museum
in Claremore. Right, the Will Rogers Museum in Claremore. And I remember going there when I was a very, very young boy. And that was what, maybe 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
No,
I remember Mom and Dad taking me there when I was a very young man. And but there's the only thing that I remembered from that whole visit that particular time was the photo of the plane crash where him and Wiley Post had died in that plane crash in Alaska.
For some of you that don't know, Will Rogers was best known for a lot of his quotes.
Yeah, he had a lot of interesting quotes.
He had a lot of very interesting quotes. One of them was, in Oklahoma, if you don't like the weather, wait a few minutes.
Yeah, it'll change. That's right. Yeah.
Another one was, I never met a man I didn't like.
Yeah.
And several others that we all use in our everyday speech, or a lot of us do, not realizing that those were considered Will Rogers' famous quotes.
Right. And it's just so interesting, the day that we showed up there to go to the museum also happened to be the anniversary of the plane crash.
Yeah, we did not know it.
And so we happened to get there just in time. They had a brief ceremony. His tomb is there.
Yes.
Yeah. And some of the family that's still left was there in this ceremony, and they placed a wreath on the tomb. There was a flyover of an early model airplane that flew over, and I got a little bit of that. It flew directly over my head, so really all you can see is, you know, just the plane going directly over me there. But that was interesting and sobering too at the same time.
Yes. Did you mention that they died in the Alaskan territory?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
The plane crash was in Alaska, but I didn't realize how many movies he'd been in. No. And one of my favorite parts about the museum was they did, in one end of the museum, they had a little theater there, and you could actually go up to a kiosk that was made like a ticket booth, but it was actually a kiosk, and you could punch up a video that you wanted to watch and sit there in a regular theater type setting and watch it. And the one that amazed me the most was the one that showed all of or several of his rope tricks, and man, that guy, wow.
You think that rope do anything?
Wow. But he had been in several movies, which I didn't realize, all the movies he'd been in. He was also part of the Ziegfeld Follies group. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
So.
Ziegfeld Follies or Ziegfeld I can't remember. But anyway, he was part of that group and traveled, entertained. He was a comedian. But anyway, he was just, his life was very interesting, and we really enjoyed our visit there. And I learned a lot of things, for one thing, that I had forgotten growing up about Will Rogers. I learned a lot of those things, and I learned a bunch of new stuff that I didn't know at the time either. One thing about it was the only painting of him that was done from life while he was alive was done by Charles Banks Wilson. Now, Charles Banks Wilson was a famous artist from Oklahoma, and he ended up eventually living in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Now, in my early years, I did get to meet Charles Banks Wilson and didn't even realize who I was meeting. At the time, he was in Miami, Oklahoma. He was born in Springdale, Arkansas. The family moved to Miami, Oklahoma, which is where I was raised. And the main attraction in Miami was the Coleman Theater. And this is like the early theaters, you know, that you know, the theaters of today are nothing more than a big box with seating and a screen, and that's about it. But in the old days, man, they did up the theaters like nobody's business.
Well,
I mean,
it was a culture thing.
Yeah, right. And Charles Banks Wilson painted a likeness. Well, actually, it was a really good painting of Will Rogers when he was there on tour, and he was there to speak at the Coleman Theater in Miami, Oklahoma. And like I say, when I met Charles Banks Wilson, I was in the floor covering industry, of course, and he had a studio, a art studio, across from the Coleman Theater in Miami. And I remember he had an apartment there. No, actually, it wasn't an apartment. It was another storefront, a business front that he was going to rent out. And I measured it for floor covering. And I had, like I say, I had no idea who I was actually meeting there and who he was.
Didn't know he was some famous guy.
No. But anyway, Will Rogers, you know, there's so many things that's named after Will Rogers in the state of Oklahoma. The Will Rogers International Airport in Oklahoma City. Just about every town in northeast Oklahoma will have a Will Rogers Boulevard, which we had in Miami.
Right.
It's Miami.
Well, I just learned today that Rogers County, which is a county in Oklahoma, was actually named in honor of his father,
Clement, in honor of his father, Clement.
Who was a quarter, well, Will Rogers was a quarter Indian, so his father was a quarter as well.
Yeah.
And he was really big in the Cherokee Nation as far as being a judge, a senator in the Cherokee Nation.
In the Cherokee Nation, right, correct.
So it was very interesting.
Anyway, it was very interesting, and anyway, that's about, that's more or less an update of what we've been doing here, and we're really enjoying ourselves at this campground. Right now, it's really quiet. It's still the middle of the week, kind of, sort of.
Actually, it's Friday.
Actually, it is Friday, isn't it? See, I lose track of time.
But school started.
But school started. We have had a few new neighbors pull in here in the last day or so. We'll see what happens tomorrow on Saturday, see if we get a few more. One thing we will mention, though, before we go, we have excellent cell service here. So, and we're going to be here for another week. Probably I'll put together another music deal for those that are interested in seeing a live feed of me playing some music. So we'll probably here in the next few days set up and do a live feed playing some music. And what we will do is I will post a day ahead of time. I'll do a post on YouTube, so be watching for that. I'll post on YouTube when I'm going to be doing the going live thing, and then you'll know when to get ready for those that want to see me playing a few songs. And we'll have this beautiful backdrop. This is what's going to be my backdrop right back here, this beautiful view. And hopefully I'll be able to sit outside and do it, and the wind won't be so bad so that it won't affect the audio or anything. Anything else you can think of we need to add right quick?
No.
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 Anyway, we will be doing an in-depth review of this campground, but we'll say it one more time. We really recommend this campground, don't we?
Yes,
it's
we do.
Beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous.
We've been going through and picking out our favorite spots, and we'll share that with you.
The one we're sitting on right now is a little on the steep side, and it was probably the most challenging setup we've done to date. Probably the most challenging setup we've done to date.
But you accomplished it.
Oh yeah, we got her done. You betcha. We got her done.
We haven't slid down the hill or nothing.
No, but they do have a lot of really nice level spots, and then they have a few that were kind of steep, like the one we ended up at. But you know, that's the beauty of not checking it out beforehand. Then you're forced to learn how to set up in situations that are different than others.
It's like we've said, every time we set up, every time we break down, we learn something new.
We learn something new every time.
Every time.
But we got her done, and the trailer's setting. I mean, when you see a photo, which I'll go ahead and show you one. I'll go ahead and show you a photo. Yeah. But when you see it, you'll think, wow. But the tongue of the trailer is at least 3 foot off the ground, I'd say. You know,
well,
probably.
All I know
so.
is our steps aren't quite tall enough.
No, we have to get in through the side door. We have to step up quite a bit to get in there. But anyway, all in all, we're having a great time. Oh, one more thing. We are going to go, we're not very far from one of my favorite racetracks. Yes, we are race fans.
Car race.
Huh?
Dirt car.
Car race, yeah. Yeah. And we prefer dirt tracks, yeah. You know, we've been to the big NASCAR races and stuff like that, but we get a bigger thrill out of going to the local dirt track. And we're not very far at all from the Salina, Oklahoma Highback Raceway. And we are going to go there, and we will show you some video of that. It is a really cool racing facility. One of the finest we've been to in years. Yeah, when it comes to dirt track racing. So we're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to that. So probably you'll have at least 2 more videos coming from us while we're here at this particular campground. Anyway, we need to go ahead and sign off for now.
Yes.
And we've got one thing to say. We're not camping.
We're living.
Exactly, we're living. This is Bill and Deb with I Ride Tiny House Adventures. We'll see you again soon.
Bye for now.
Bye.